In the 29th Jubilee, in the first week, in the beginning thereof, Arpachshad took to himself a woman, and her name was Rashueva, the daughter of Shashan, and the daughter of Elam, and she bore him a son in the 3rd year, in this week, and he called his name Kainam. And the son grew, and his father taught him writing, and he went to seek for himself a place where he might seize for himself a city. And he found a writing which former generations had carved on the rock, and he read what was thereon, and he transcribed it, and sinned owing to it, for it contained the teachings of the watchers, in accordance with which they had used to observe the omens of the sun and the moon and the stars and all the signs of heaven. And he wrote it down and said nothing regarding it, for he was afraid to speak to Noah about it, lest he should be angry with him on account of it. And on the 13th Jubilee, in the 2nd week, in the 1st year thereof, he took to himself a woman, and her name was Melka, the daughter of Madai, the son of Japheth. And in the 4th year he begot a son, and called his name Shelach, for he said, truly, I have been sent. And in the 4th year he was born, and Shelach grew up, and he took to himself a woman, and her name was Muach, the daughter of Keshed, his father's brother, in the 113th Jubilee, in the 5th week, in the 1st year thereof. And she bore him a son in the 5th year thereof, and he called his name Eber. And he took to himself a woman, and her name was Azarad, the daughter of Nebrod. And the 32nd Jubilee, in the 7th week, in the 3rd year thereof. And in the 6th year thereof, she bore him a son, and he called his name Peleg. For in the days when he was born, the children of Noach began to divide the earth amongst themselves, and for this reason he called his name Peleg. And they divided it secretly among themselves, and told it to Noah. And he came to pass in the beginning of the 33rd Jubilee that they divided the earth into 3 parts, for Shem and Ham and Japheth, according to the inheritance of each. In the 1st year, on the 1st week, when one of us who had been sent was with them, and he called his sons, and they drew nigh to him, and they and their children, and he divided the earth into lots, which has 3 sons which were taken in possession, and they reached forth their hands and took the writing out of the bosom of Noach, their father. And there came forth on the writing as Shem's lot, the middle of the earth, which he should take as an inheritance for himself and for his sons and for the generations of eternity, from the middle of the mountain range of Rapha, from the mouth of the water, from the river Tina, and his portions go towards the west through the midst of this river, and it extends until it reaches the water of the abyss, out from which the river goes forth and pours its water into the sea Ma'at, and this river flows into the great sea. And all that is towards the north is Jebus, and all that is towards Negev belongs to Shem, and it extends until it reaches Karaso. This is the bosom of the tongue which looks towards Negev, and his portion extends among the great sea, and extends in a great line till it reaches the west of the tongue which looks towards Negev. For this sea is named the tongue of the Missouri Sea, and it turns from there towards the Negev, towards the mount of the great sea on the shore of its waters, and it extends to the west to Afra, and it extends till it reaches the waters of the great Gihon, and to the south of the waters of Gihon, to the banks of its river. And it extends towards the east till it reaches the Garden of Eden, to the south thereof, to the south, and from the east, and the whole land of Eden, and of the whole east, It turns to the east and proceeds until it reaches the east of the mountains named Rapha, and it descends to the bank of the mouth of the river Tina. This portion came forth by lot for Shem and his sons, and they should possess it forever, and to his generations forevermore. And Noah returned rejoiced that this portion came forth for Shem and for his sons, and he remembered all that he had spoken with his mouth in prophecy. For he had said, Blessed be Yahweh Elohim of Shem, and may Yahweh dwell in the dwelling of Shem. And he knew that the Garden of Eden is the Holy of Holies, and that the dwelling of Yahweh and Mount Sinai in the center of the desert, and Mount Tieson, the center of the navel of the earth. These three were created as holy places facing each other. And he blessed the Elohim of Elohim, who had put the word of Yahweh into his mouth, and Yahweh forevermore. And he knew that the blessed portion and the blessing had come into Shem and his sons, into the generations forever, the whole land of Eden, and the whole land of the Red Sea, and the whole land of the east, and India, and on the Red Sea, and on the mountains thereof, and all the land of Bashan, and all the land of Lebanon, and the isles of Kaphor, and all the mountains of Sinar, and Amadah, and the mountains of Ashur in the north, and the lands of Alim, Ashur, and Babel, and Shashan, and Madi, and all the mountains of Ararat, and all the regions beyond the sea, which is beyond the mountains of Ashur, towards the north. A blessed and spacious land, and all that is in it is very good. And for Ham came forth the second portion beyond the Gihon, towards the south to the right of the garden, and it extends towards the south, and it extends to all the mountains of fire, and it extends towards the west of the sea of Atal, and it extends towards the west till it reaches the sea of Maok, and the sea that which everything which is not destroyed descends. And it goes forth towards the north to the limits of Gedar, and it goes forth to the coast of the waters of the sea, to the waters of the great sea, till it draws near to the river Gihon, and it goes all along the river Gihon till it reaches the right of the Garden of Eden. And this is the land which came forth for Ham as the portion which he was to occupy forever for himself and for his sons and to their generation forever. And for Japheth he came forth the fourth portion beyond the river Tina to the north of the outflow of its waters, and it extends northeastwardly to the whole region of Gog and to all the country east thereof, and extends northerly to the north, and it extends to the mountains of Kelt towards the north and towards the sea of Bach, and it goes forth to the east of Gadar as far as the region of the water of the sea, and extends until it approaches the west Farah, and it returns towards Afrag, and it extends easterly to the waters of the sea of Mehak, and it extends to the region of the river Tina in a northeasterly direction until it approaches the boundary of its waters towards the mountain Rapha, and it turns around towards the north. This is the land which came forth for Japheth and his sons as a portion of his inheritance, which he should possess for himself and for his sons and for generations forever. 5 great islands and a great land in the north, but it is cold, and the land of Ham is hot, and the land of Shem is neither hot nor cold, but it is a blended cold and heat. And Ham divided among his sons, and the first portion came forth for Cush towards the east, and to the west of him for Mitzrayim, and to the west of him for Put, and to the west of him and to the west thereof on the sea for Canaan. And Shem also divided amongst his sons, and the first portion came forth for Elam and his sons to the east of the river Hiddekel, until it approaches the east and the whole land of India, and on the Red Sea, on its coast, and the waters of Dindan, and all the mountains of Mibri, and Elam, and all the land of Shushan, and all that is on the side of Parnak, and to the Red Sea, and the river Tina. And for Ashur came forth the second portion, all the land of Ashur, and Nineveh, and Shin, and Shinar, and to the border of India, and it ascended and skirts the river. And for Arpachshad came forth the third portion, all the land of the region of Keshem in the east of Parath, bordering on the Red Sea, and all the waters of the desert close to the tongue of the sea, which looks towards Mitzrayim, and all the land of Lebanon, and Shinar, and Amana, to the border of Parath. And for Abraham there came forth the fourth portion, all the land of Abraham, Naharim, between the Kiddekel and the Parath, to the north of the Kedeshim, to the border of the mountains of Ashur, and the land of Arad. And there came forth for Ludi the fifth portion, the mountain of Ashur, and all appertaining to them, till it reaches the great sea, and till it reaches the east of Ashur and his brother. And Japheth also divided the land of its inheritance among the sons. And the first portion came forth for Gimmer in the east from the north side to the river Tina, and in the north there came forth for Magog all the inner portions of the north until it reaches the sea of Maat. And for Midai came forth as his portion, that he should possess from the west of his two brothers to the islands and to the coast of the islands. And for Yavan came forth the fourth portion, every island and the islands which are towards the border of Ludi. And for Tubal there came forth the fifth portion of the mist of the tongue, which approaches towards the border of the portion of Ludi, to the second tongue, and to the region beyond, and to the second tongue, and to the third tongue. And for Meshach came forth the sixth portion, all the region beyond the third tongue, until it approaches the east of Gedar. And for Thyrek there came forth seven portion, for a great island in the midst of the sea, which reached to the portion of Chem, and to the islands of Kematari came out by lot for the sons of Arpachshad as his inheritance. And thus the sons of Noach divided into their sons in the presence of Noach their father, and he bounded them all by oath, imprecating a curse on every one that sought to seize the portion which had not fallen to him by his lot. And they all said, so be it for themselves and for their sons forever throughout their generations, till the day of judgment on that which Yahweh Elohim shall judge them with a sword and with fire for all unclean wickedness of their errors, wherewith they have filled the earth with transgression and uncleanliness and fornication and sin. And in the third week of the Jubilee, and unclean devils began to lead astray the children of the sons of Noach, and to make an error and destroy them. And the sons of Noach came to Noach their father, and they told him concerning the devils which were leading astray, the blinding and slaying his sons. And he prayed before Yahweh Eloheinu, and said, Elohim of the Ruach, of all flesh, who has shown mercy unto me, and who has saved me and my sons from the waters of the flood, and has not caused me to perish as you did the sons of perdition, for your grace has been great towards me, and great has been your mercy to my soul. Let your grace be lifted up upon my sons, and let not wicked Ruach rule over them, lest they should destroy them from the earth. But do you bless me and my sons, that we may increase and multiply and replenish the earth. And you know how your watchers, the fathers of these Ruachath, acted in my day. And as for these Ruachath, which are living, imprison them and Hold them fast in place of condemnation, and let them not bring destruction on the sons of your servant, my Elohim, for these are malignant and created in order to destroy. And let them not rule over the Ruachoth of the living, for you alone can exercise dominion over them, and let them not have power over the sons of righteous from henceforth and forevermore. And Yahweh Eloheinu bade us to bind all, and the chief of the Ruach Mestema came and said, Yahuwah, Creator, let some of them remain before me, and let them hearken to my voice, and do all that I shall say to them. For if some of them are not left to me, I shall not be able to execute the power of my will on the sons of men. For these are for corruption and leading astray before my judgment, for great is the wickedness of the sons of men. And he said, let the 10th part of them remain before him, and let 9 parts descend into the place of condemnation. And one of us he commanded that we should teach Noach all their medicines, for he knew that they would not walk in uprightness nor strive in uprightness. And we did according to all of his words. All the magnificent evil ones we bound in the place of condemnation, and the 10th part of them we left, that they might be subject before Satan on the earth. And we explained of Noach all medicines of their diseases, together with their seductions, how he might heal them with their herbs of the earth. And Noach wrote down all things in a cipher, as we instructed him concerning every kind of medicine. Thus the evil Ruach were precluded from hurting the sons of Noah. And he gave all that he had written to Shem, his eldest son, for he loved them exceedingly above all his sons. And Noach slept with his fathers, and was buried on Mount Lubar in the land of Ararat. 950 years he completed in his life, 19 jubilees in 2 weeks and 5 years. And in his life on earth he excelled the children of men, save Hanok, because of righteousness, wherein he was. For Hanok's office was ordained for a testimony to the generations of the world, so that he should recount all the deeds of generation into generation till the day of judgment. And in the 13th Jubilee, in the 1st year, on the 2nd week, Peleg took to himself a woman whose name was Lomna, the daughter of Senaar, and she bore him a son in the 4th year of his week, and he called his name Reu, for he said, behold, the children of men have become evil throughout the wicked purpose of building for themselves a city and a tower in the land of Shinar, for they departed from the land of Ararat eastward to Shinar, for in his days they built the city and the tower, saying, go to, let us ascend thereby unto heaven. And they began to build, and in the 4th week they made brick with fire, and the brick served them for stone, and the clay with which they cemented them together was asphalt, which comes out of the sea and out of the fountains of the water in the land of Shinar. And they built it. 43 years were they building it. Its breadth was 203 bricks, and the height of a brick was 1/3 of one. Its height amounted to 5,433 cubits and 2 psalms, and the extent of one wall was 13 shades, and of all 30 shades. And Yahuwah Eloheinu said to us, behold, they are one people, and this they shall begin to do, and now nothing will be withheld from them. Go to, let us go down and confound their languages, that they may not understand one another's speech, and that they may be dispersed into cities and nations, and one purpose will no longer abide with them until the day of judgment. And Yahuwah descended And we descended with him to see the city and the tower which the children of men had built. And he confounded their language, and they no longer understood one another's speech. And they ceased then to build the city and the tower. And for this reason, the whole land of Shinar is called Babel, because Yahuwah did there confound all language of the children of men, and from thence they were dispersed into their cities, each according to his language and his nation. And Yahuwah sent a mighty wind against the tower and overthrew it upon the earth. And behold, it was between Ashur and Babel in the land of Shinar, and they called its name Overthrow. In the 4th week, in the 1st year, in the beginning thereof, in the 13th Jubilee, where they dispersed from the land of Shinar, and Shem and his sons went unto the land which he was to occupy, which he acquired as his portion in the land of the south. And Canaan saw the land of Lebanon to the river of Mitzrayim, that it was very good, and he went not into the land, his inheritance, into the west, that is to the sea. And he dwelt in the land of Lebanon, eastward and westward, from the border of the Jordan, and from the border of the sea. And Shem his father, and Cush, and Mitzrayim his brother, said to him, You have settled in the land which is not yours, and which did not fall to us by lot. Do not do so. For if you do so, you and your sons will fall in the land, and be a curse through sedition. And by sedition ye have settled, and by sedition will your children fall, and you shall be rooted out forever. Dwell not in the dwelling of Shem, for to Shem and to his sons did it come by their lot. Cursed are you, and cursed shall you be beyond all the sons of Noah, by the curse by which we bound ourselves by an oath in the presence of the holy judge, and in the presence of Noah our father. But he did not hearken to them, and dwelled in the land of Lebanon, from Chamath to entering of Mitzrayim, he and his sons, until this day. And for this reason that land is named Canaan. And Japheth and his sons went towards the sea, and dwelled in the land of their portion. And Madai saw the land of the sea, and it did not please him. And he begged a portion from Elim, and Ashur, and Archipech, his woman's brother, and he dwelt in the land of Madai near to his woman's brother until this day. And he called his dwelling place, and the dwelling place of his sons, Madai, after the name of their father Madai. And in the 35th Jubilee, in the 3rd week, in the 1st year thereof, Reu took to himself a woman, and her name was Orah, the daughter of Ur, and the son of Chesed, and she bore him a son, and he called his name Sorol. In the 7th year of this week, in his Jubilee. And the son of Noah began to war on each other, and to take captive, and to slay each other, and to shed the blood of men on the earth, and to eat blood, and to build strong cities and walls and towers. And individuals began to exalt themselves above nation, and to found the beginnings of kingdoms, and to go to war, people against people, and nation against nation, and city against city, and all begun to do evil, and to acquire arms, and to teach their sons war, that they began to capture cities, and to sell male and female slaves. And the son of Chesed, built the city of Ara of the Kasdim, and called its name after his own name, and the name of his father. And they made for themselves molten images, and they worshipped each the idol, the molten image which they had made for themselves. And they began to make graven images and unclean simulacra, and malignant ruach assisted and seduced them into committing transgressions and uncleanliness. And the prince Mastema exerted himself to do all this, and he sent forth other ruachos, those which were put under his hand, to do all manner of wrong and sin, and all manner of transgression, to corrupt and destroy, and to shed blood upon the earth. For this reason he called the name Sherah. Sherag, for everyone turned to do all manner of sin and transgression. And he grew up and dwelt in Ur of the Kasdim, near the father of his woman's mother, and he worshipped idols, and he took to himself a woman on the 36th Jubilee, in the 5th week, in the 1st year thereof, and her name was Milcah, the daughter of Kabar, the daughter of his father's brother. And she bore him Nechor in the 1st year of this week, and he grew and dwelt in Ur of the Kasdim, and his father taught him the researches of the Hasidim to divine and augur according to the signs of heaven. And in the 37th Jubilee, in the 6th week, on the 1st year thereof, he took to himself a woman, and her name was Leyathka, the daughter of Nestag of the Kasdim, and she bore him Terach in the 7th year of this week. And the prince Mastema sent ravens and birds to devour the seed which was sown in the land, in order to destroy the land and rob the children of men of their labors. Before they could plow in seed, the ravens picked it from the surface of the ground, and for this reason he called his name Terach, because the ravens and the birds reduced them in destitution and devoured their seed. And the years began to be barren, owing to the birds, that they devoured all the fruit of the trees from the trees, and it was only with great effort that they could save a little of all the fruit of the earth in their days. And in the 39th Jubilee, in the 2nd week, in the 1st year, Terach took to himself a woman, and her name was Edna, the daughter of Abram, the daughter of his father's sister. And in the 7th year of this week, she bore him a son, and he called his name Abram, by the name of the father of his mother, for he had died before his daughter had conceived a son. And the child began to understand the errors of the earth, that all went astray after graven images and after uncleanliness. And the father taught him writing, and he was 2 weeks of years old, and he separated himself from his father, that he might not worship idols with him. And he began to pray to the Creator of all things, that he might save him from the errors of the children of men, and that his portion should not fall into error after uncleanliness and vileness. And the seed time came for the sowing of the seed upon the land, and they all went forth together to protect their seed against the ravens. And Abraham went forth with those that went, and the child was a lad of 14 years. And a cloud of ravens came to devour the seed, and Abram ran to meet them before they settled on the ground, and cried to them before they settled on the ground to devour the seed, and said, "Descend not, return to the place whence ye came." And they proceeded to turn back, and he caused the cloud of ravens to turn back that day 70 times. And of all the ravens throughout all the land where Abram was, there settled there not so much as one. And all who were with him throughout all the land saw him cry out, and all the ravens turned back, and his name became great in all the land of Kasdim. And there came unto him this year all those that wished to sow, and he went with them until the time of sowing ceased. And they sowed their land, and that year they brought enough grain home and eat and were satisfied. And in the 1st year of the 5th week, Abram taught those who made implements for oxen, the artificers in wood, and they made a vessel above the ground facing the frame of the plow, in order to put the seed thereon. And the seed fell down thereon upon the shares of the plow, and was hidden in the earth, and they no longer feared the ravens. And after this manner they made vessels upon the ground on all the frames of the plows. And they sowed and tilled all the land according to Abram commanded them, and they no longer feared the birds. And it came to pass in the 6th week, on the 7th year thereof, that Abram said to Terach his father, saying, Father. And he said, Behold, here I am, my son. And he said, What help and profit have we from those idols which you do worship, and before which you do bow yourself? For there is no ruach in them, for they are dumb forms and misleading of the heart. Worship them not. Worship the Elohim of heaven, who causes the rain and the dew to descend on the earth and does everything upon the earth, and has created everything by his word, and all life is from before his face. Why do you worship things that have no ruach in them? For they are the work of men's hands, and on your shoulders do ye bear them, and ye have no help from them, but they are great cause of shame to those who make them, and misleading of the heart to those who worship them. Worship them not. And his father said to him, I also know it, my son, but what shall I do with a people who have made me to serve them before? And if I tell them the truth, they will slay me, for their soul cleaves to them to worship them and honor them. Keep silent, my son, lest they slay you. And these words he spoke to his brothers, and they were angry with him, and he kept silent. And in the 14th Jubilee, in the 2nd week, on the 7th year thereof, Abram took to himself a woman, and her name was Sarai, the daughter of his father, and she became his woman. And Haran, his brother, took to himself a woman in the 3rd year of the 3rd week, and she bore him a son in the 7th year of this week, and he called his name Lot. And Nahor, his brother, took to himself a woman, and in the 60th year of life of Abraham, that is in the 4th week, on the 4th year thereon, Abram rose by night and burned the house of the idols, and he burned all that was in the house, and no man knew it. And they arose in night and sought to save their Elohim from the midst of the fire. And Haran has turned to save them, but the fire flamed over him, and he was burnt in the fire, and he died in Ur of the Kasdim before Terach his father, and they burned him in Ur of the Kasdim. And Terach went forth from Ur of the Kasdim, he and his sons, to go into the land of Lebanon and into the land of Canaan, and he dwelt in the land of Haran. And Abram dwelt with Terach his father in Haran 2 weeks of years. And in the 6th week, in the 5th year thereof, Abram sat up throughout the night on the new moon of the 7th month to observe the stars from the evening to the morning, in order to see what would be the character of the year with regard to the rains. And he was alone as he sat and observed. And the word came into his heart, and he said, All the signs of the stars and the signs of the moon and of the sun are all in the hand of Yahweh. Why do I search them out? If he desires, he causes it to rain morning and evening. And if he desires, he withholds it. And all things are in his hand. And he prayed that night and said, My Elohim, my Elyon, you alone are my Elohim, and you and your dominion have I chosen, and you have created all things, and all things that are work of your hands. Deliver me from the hands of evil ruachos, who have dominion over the thoughts of men's hearts, and let them not lead me astray from you, my Elohim, and establish me and my seed forever, that we go not astray from henceforth forevermore. And he said, Shall I return unto Ur of the Kasdim, who seek my face, that I may return to them? Am I to remain here in this place, the right path before you prosper it in the hands of your servant, that he may fulfill it, and that I may not walk in deceitfulness of my heart? O Elohai, And he made an end of speaking and praying, and behold, the word of Yahuwah was sent to him through me, saying, Get you upon from your country, and from your kindred, and from your house of your father, into the land which I show you. And I shall make you great and numerous nation, and I will bless you, and make your name great, and you shall be blessed in the earth, and you shall all families of the earth be blessed. And I will bless them that bless you, and I will curse them that curse you. And I will be an Elohim to you and your son, and your son's son, and to all your seed. Fear not from henceforth, and unto all generations of the earth. I am your Elohim. And Yahuwah Elohim said, Open his mouth and his ears, that he may hear and speak with his mouth, with the language which has been revealed. For it had ceased from the mouths of all children of men from the day of the overthrow of Babel. And I opened his mouth and his ears and his lips, and I began to speak with him in Evrit, in the tongue of creation. And he took the Sifrim of his father, and these were written in Evrit, and he transcribed them. And he began from henceforth to study them. And I made known to him that which he could not understand, and he studied them during the 6 rainy months. And it came to pass in the 17th year of the 6th week that he spoke to his father and informed him that he would leave Haran to go into the land of Canaan to see it and return to him. And Terach, his father, said to him, Go in peace, may the eternal Elohim make your path straight, and Yahuwah be with you and protect you from all evil, and grant unto you mercy and grace and favor for those who see you, and may none of the children of men have power over you to harm you. Go in peace. And if you see a land pleasant to your eyes to dwell in, then arise and take me to you, and take Lot with you, the son of Haran, your brother, as your own son. Yahuwah be with you, and Nahor, your brother, leave with me till you return in peace, and we go with you all together. And Abram journeyed from Haran, and he took Sarai his woman, and Lot his brother Haran's son, to the land of Canaan. And he came into Ashur, and proceeded to Shechem, and dwelt near a lofty oak. And he saw and beheld the land was very pleasant, from the entering of Hamath into the lofty oak. And Yahweh said to him, To you and to your seed will I give this land. And he built an altar there, and he offered therein a burnt sacrifice to Yahweh, who had appeared to him. And he removed from hence into the mountain Bayat El on the west, and Ai on the east, and pitched his tent there. And he saw, and behold, the land was very wide and good, and everything grew thereon, vines and figs and pomegranates, oaks and flexes and terebinths and oil trees and cedars and cypress and date trees and all trees of the field, that there was water on the mountains. And the blessed Yahuwah, and he blessed Yahuwah, who had led him out of Ur of the Kasdim, and had brought him to his land. And it came to pass in the first year, in the 7th week, on the new moon of the first month, that he built an altar on this mountain, and he called the name of Yahuwah. You, the eternal Elohim, are my Elohim. And he offered on the altar a burnt sacrifice unto Yahuwah, that he should be with him and not forsake him all the days of his life. And he removed thence and went forward towards Negev, and he came to Chevron, and Chevron was built at that time, and he dwelt there 2 years. And he went thence to the land of Negev and to Baaloth, and there was a famine in the land. And Abram went to Mitzrayim in the 3rd year of the week, and he dwelt in Mitzrayim 5 years before his woman was torn away from him. Now Tanias in Mitzrayim was at the time built 7 years after Chevron. And it came to pass when Pharaoh seized Sarai, the woman of Abram, that Yahuwah plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's woman. And Abram was very glorious by reason of possessions and sheep and cattle and asses and horses and camels and maidservants and manservants and in silver and in gold exceedingly. And Lot also his brother's son was wealthy. And Pharaoh gave back Sarai, the woman of Abram, and he sent him out of the land of Mitzrayim, and he journeyed to the place where he had pitched his tent in the beginning, to place of the altar, and Ai on the east, and Baal on the west. And he blessed Yahuwah Eloheinu, who had brought him back in peace. And it came to pass in the 41st Jubilee, in the 3rd year of the 1st week, that he returned to his place and offered thereon a burnt sacrifice, and called on the name Yahuwah, and said, You, El Elyon, are my Elohim forever and ever. And in the 4th year of this week, Lot parted from him, and Lot dwelled in Sidon, and the men of Sidon were sinners exceedingly. And it grieved him in his heart that his brother's son had parted from him, for he had no children. In that year when Lot was taken captive, Yahuwah said to Abram, after that Lot had parted from him in the 4th year of his week, lift up your eyes from the place where you are dwelling, northward and southward and westward and eastward. For all the land which you see I will give you, and to your seed forever, and I will make your seed as the sands of the sea. Though a man may number the dust of the earth, yet your seed shall not be numbered. Arise, walk through the land in the length of it and the breadth of it, and see it all. For your seed will I give it. And Abram went to Chevron and dwelt there. And in this year came Kedor Omer, king of Elam, and Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Erok, king of Elakar, and Tedal, king of nations, and slew the king of Amorah, and the king of Sidon fled, and many fell through wounds in the valley of Siddim by the salt sea. And they took captive Sidon and Adam, Adam and Tesavim, and they took captive Lot also, the son of Abram's brother, and all possessions, and they went to Dan. And one who had escaped came and told Abram that his brother's son had been taken captive, and Abram armed his household servants for Abram and for his seed, 1/10 of the firstfruits to Yahuwah, and Yahuwah ordained it as an ordinance forever, that they should give it to the priest who served before him, that they should possess it forever. And to this Torah there is no limit of days, for he has ordained it for the generations forever, that they should give to Yahuwah the 10th of everything, of the seed and of the wine and the oil and the cattle and of the sheep. And he gave it unto his priests to eat and to drink with joy before him. And the king of Sidon came to him and bowed himself before him and said, Our Lord Abram, give unto us the souls which you have rescued, but let the booty be yours. And Abram said unto him, I lift up my hands to El Elyon, that from a thread to a shoe latchest I shall not take anything that is yours, lest you should say, I have made Abram rich, save only that the young men have eaten, and that the portion of men who went with me, Abner, Ashkol, and Mamre, these shall take their portion.